Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Steven Brown, and in today's video, guys, let's talk about Morgan Rielly. But before we do that, guys, I got a whole mess of John Tavares jerseys with the C on them, Adidas authentic, brand new, never worn before, home away, sizes medium through extra large, so 50 through 54 for sale. They're 105 Canadian dollars with shipping included anywhere in Canada or the United States. If you'd like to pick them up in Toronto, you can save yourself 15 bucks by doing so. So they'd be $90. I have an Austin Matthews size large jersey. I have a Mitch Marner Reebok size medium jersey. I have a bunch of Patrick Laine jerseys that are only $55. I will have a link in the description to a tweet on my Twitter account, and it'll be the pinned comment as well. If you're interested in that, just send me a DM on Twitter. But back to Morgan Rielly. We need to have a conversation about this player right now in the present. Not in the offseason this year, not in the offseason after that when his contract expires, right now. Because he's been taking a lot of heat this season, specifically over the last couple of games or so that we saw against the Vancouver Canucks. I believe on the go-ahead goal in that game, Rielly-Brodie's stick breaks. There's an unfavorable bounce. It's a bad read by him, and the puck's in their net. He's not good at defense. He's not even just passable at defense. He's bad at defense. He's always been bad at defense. But Morgan Rielly is one of the better offensive defensemen in the league. And right now, at $5 million per season for this year and next year, I can justify how bad he is on defense when he is putting up points. The first 6 games of the year where he had 1 goal and 1 point was a -4. Absolutely trash. Garbage. If he's going to play like that, I don't want him on the team. But in his last 20 games played, he's got 18 points, and he's a +9 if you care about that. 20 games played is not a small sample either. That's a quarter of a season in a full 82-game year, and he'd be on pace for almost 74 points. And I can understand your frustration. The first game against the Vancouver Canucks, frustrating loss. The second game up until that point, frustrating. You see that defensive effort, you see that defensive play, and you get upset. That's only natural. I understand that completely, and I'm not telling you that you're wrong for feeling like that in the moment, because I felt like that too. But if the guy's going to continue scoring at this pace for the rest of the season, he's not that bad defensively, okay? If he can score at this pace, you can justify keeping him in the lineup and playing him the amount of minutes that he does. We shouldn't have to hear people moaning and complaining about it every time he does it. You just have to accept it. Don't pay attention to the cap space up in the corner there, because that's not the point that I'm trying to make right now. But I suggested in the previous video where I talked about what I wanted the Toronto Maple Leafs to do at the trade deadline, what I wanted them to do, not what I think that they're going to do. It's a very important note for the previous video here, which I will leave linked to top the screen. That I thought that the Maple Leafs could go out there and get another defensively minded defenseman to give them some more in their top 6. I suggested David Savard as that player. And maybe, I don't know, when you're leading late in a playoff game, let's just say, you could go to Brodie, Savard, Muzzin, Hull, Rielly, Dermott, or Rielly-Brodie. I mean, I don't really care. I'm not going to split hairs at that point right now. And you could maybe not play Morgan Rielly as much. I want to be able to put our players in the best possible position to succeed. And if you're leading late in a very important game, maybe Morgan Rielly's not the best option to go to, especially maybe you don't have the momentum on your side and you want someone that's a little bit more defensively reliable to just lock things down and run out the clock. But going back to his previous 20 games, he is second on the Toronto Maple Leafs in terms of defensive scoring at 5-on-5 over those last 20 games. And on the power play, he's leading all Maple Leafs defensemen by a fair margin. If you want to make it fair and look at the per 60 stats, he's also leading in that category too. The Toronto Maple Leafs are losing the shot attempt battle when Morgan Rielly is on the ice over those last 20 games, but they are winning the overall expected goals for percentage battle. They are controlling the majority of the scoring chances. They have the majority of the high danger shot attempts when Morgan Rielly is on the ice. Don't get me wrong, the Maple Leafs give up a ton of shots against and a ton of scoring chances, but they get a lot more of them for themselves. Now you're going to say, Steven, that's because Morgan Rielly always plays his shifts in the offensive zone. He is spoon-fed offensive opportunities and still gives up a lot on defense. And to that, I would say, true. you're not wrong. Morgan Rielly faces more elite competition than basically anyone in the NHL this year. And to that, you would say, well, there's not too many elite defensive forwards or elite defensive defensemen in the Canadian division. And yeah, you're not wrong, but if you don't think that Connor McDavid is dangerous when he's playing defense, you're wrong. That guy can lift your stick and he's gone in transition. And when looking at Morgan Rielly over the years in terms of expected goals against, he's not too much different this season than he was last year or the year before that. So it's not even that he's worse defensively this year. If you think he is, maybe you're just noticing it a little bit more. And he also leads all Maple Leafs defensemen in terms of expected goals above replacement. And now expected goals above replacement and goals above replacement are counting stats. The more ice time you play, the more in the positive you can have an opportunity to be, or the more in the negative. But even when we sort it by expected goals above replacement per 60 minutes, so to level out the ice time, Morgan Rielly's still number one here. And just to clarify before someone jumps on me in the comment section, no, I'm not saying Morgan Rielly is their best defenseman. Two different things. If the Maple Leafs needed a goal and I had to pick one of their defensemen to score, I would pick Morgan Rielly. If they needed a stop, so they needed to hold someone on defense, I would probably pick TJ-Brodie or Jake Muzzin. Morgan Rielly would be the last guy that I would pick. And it really is interesting to look at the Morgan Rielly-TJ-Brodie pairing. I mean, they're about even in terms of the shot attempts. They're controlling the majority of the expected goals against. They're scoring more goals than what they're allowing per 60 in the actual stats. Their numbers are good. The Maple Leafs are a good team when that pairing is on the ice. There are 45 defensive pairs in the NHL this season that have played at least 200 minutes together. And out of these 45 defensive pairings, the Morgan Rielly-TJ-Brodie pairing ranks 15th in terms of expected goals. In terms of expected goals, the Morgan Rielly-TJ-Brodie pair produces the most offense out of any of these 45 defensive partners. But they also give up the most on defense out of any of these 45 defensive partners. So if you like watching high-event hockey with a lot of scoring opportunities and a lot of chances, the Morgan Rielly-TJ-Brodie pair is a fun one to watch. But when you're looking at both the expected goals for and the expected goals against, like I said, they rank 15th out of 45 out of all these pairings. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, Morgan Rielly is in the second last season of his contract, and he's probably due for a little bit of a raise afterwards. And the Maple Leafs, of course, are very tight up against the salary cap, and it's scary. It's scary to go through contract negotiations with impact players, top 4 defensemen, top 6 forwards, after what we were put through the last couple of years. But just hear me out with this rhyme and reasoning. I'm no philosophy or psychology major or a student that took a little bit into college and a little bit in high school, but let me know if this makes sense to you. I think it's a natural coping mechanism when you're thinking about something that you might inevitably lose. To kind of help yourself get over it, you put it down a little bit. You talk a little bit more negative about it. You try to find the cons more than the pros, because that's going to help you get over it. And the sad reality is that Morgan Rielly's been in the Maple Leaf organization longer than anyone else. He's a very talented player. We've watched this player grow into what he is right now. You gotta admit, it's gonna hurt a little bit if the Maple Leafs were to lose this player. So maybe subconsciously, it's a coping mechanism that you're noticing his defensive flaws a lot more because you're preparing yourself for the inevitability that they may lose Morgan Rielly. I might be coming out of left field with that, but I don't know. It kind of makes sense to me. But when evaluating Morgan Rielly's next contract, and that is so far away, I think that a very, very good comparable would be Torrey Krug. And he signed a $6.5 million 7-year contract with the St. Louis Blues, and he's 29 years old right now, and that'll take him all the way up until he's 36 years old. Morgan Rielly was born March 9th. Oh my God, it's his birthday. Hey, buddy, happy birthday if you're watching this video. So he's going to be 28 years old by the time he needs a new contract. And I don't know, 7-year deal. He's going to be 35 by the end of that. That sounds like a nightmare for an offensive defenseman, for a defenseman that relies on his skating. He's more than likely going to get a little bit slower, and he's not going to get any better defensively, that's for sure. If you're looking at the two since the 2015 season, they're fairly similar in terms of goals above replacement. If you're looking at overall points from the 16-17 season until now, Morgan Rielly ranks 13th among all defensemen. Torrey Krug ranks 5th with about, what's that? Quick math, 30 more points in 1 more games played. So I don't think Morgan can really justify asking for much more than Torrey Krug. I believe the earliest that Morgan Rielly is eligible for a contract extension would be this offseason. But this is not a video debating whether or not the Maple Leafs should re-sign him and how much it should be. I'm just throwing a number out there that makes sense to his closest comparables. This is a video talking about Morgan Rielly right now in the present and how he's performing on this year's team. I have no idea what this offseason holds. I have no idea who they're going to be losing in the expansion draft. I have no idea what happens with Rasmus Sandin or Timothy Liljegren. I have no idea. So for me to give you any sort of concrete yes or no, should they trade him, should they extend him, I don't know. Like I said, this video was about him right now in the present, how he's played so far this year. So make sure to leave your thoughts and opinions down below. Make sure to check out the John Tavares jersey, the Austin Matthews, the Mitch Marner, the Patrick Laine ones, and make sure to like the video if you did like it and subscribe for more because more is always on the way. I used to stutter when I was in grade school. Guys, can we please focus on the positives instead of the negatives? At a time in the world where things are so complicated, can we please... we can acknowledge the negatives and we can talk about them. We can have a fair conversation about them. But can we please celebrate the good things that are going on with this team?